Minno Gajep, good morning. Pichikwe Dishnikaz, Kinodishtigan Donjaba, Jijak Dodem, Nishnabekwe Kwe Dao. So hello and good morning. I just introduced myself with my spirit name, which means the first robin that we see in the spring. With the warmer weather and the warmer temperatures, we're seeing a lot of them these days. My community is Kinodishtigan First Nation, which is in Treaty 5 territory in present-day Manitoba. And I'm a proud Anishinaabe woman, and I'm very, very happy to see all of your faces this morning, welcoming those from Thunder Bay who are here from our Indigenous Student Lounge on our Thunder Bay campus, and from their homes and offices. I think we have a few of those as well. I'm the manager of Indigenous Initiatives and Monjigamig here at Lakehead University. My English name is Carlotta Ellison. I would like to start first with our land acknowledgement. So Lakehead University acknowledges its campuses are located on the traditional lands of Indigenous peoples. Lakehead Aurelia is located on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe. The Anishinaabe include the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. Lakehead Thunder Bay is located on the traditional lands of the Fort William First Nation, signatory to the Robinson Superior Treaty of 1850. Lakehead University acknowledges the history that many nations hold in the areas around our campuses and is committed to a relationship with First Nation, Métis, and Inuit peoples based on the principles of mutual trust, respect, reciprocity, and collaboration in the spirit of reconciliation. So I'd like to welcome all of you here. We're here in honor of World Water Day, which happens to actually fall on March 22nd of every year. So we're having it a little bit early on Thursday of this year. And I'd like to also acknowledge, for those who may not know, that today is actually the spring equinox. And it's a day marked by people around the world, but particularly for Indigenous people. It's important for people across Turtle Island and around the world. It's a time of renewal and rebirth. It's a time to connect with the land and a time for planting ceremonies that honor that cycle of life that creation provides to us. So it's only fitting that we honor water and its connection to the earth and all that creation provides, and that time of renewal that we're seeing. So the snow melting, the birds coming out, the buds that we're going to start to see. It's a beautiful time of year. So World Water Day, what is it? I just wanted to mention for those of you who may not know. It's an annual United Nations Observance Day, which was first observed in 1993. And the day is focused on raising awareness about the importance of fresh water and promoting its sustainable management. So each year, World Water Day implements a theme, with this year being glacier preservation, reminding us of the urgent need to combat climate change and protect natural reservoirs. And the motto of World Water Day is water is not just a resource, it's the lifeline of our planet. So I want you to all think about that today as you leave our ceremony today, after we receive some teachings and hear from our speakers, the importance of what that motto really means, right? Water is not just a resource, it's the lifeline of our planet. I'm going to play a slideshow that'll play as we are proceeding today that many of you will see, with some visuals and just some important facts about water to remind us of what that lifeline water really means to us, right? So with that, I'd like it to introduce everybody here in person and those of you who are tuning in via Zoom today. Our elder, Vicki Pavis, who was kind enough to join us. She's going to do a traditional opening and a water ceremony with some teachings. Elder Vicki is from Rama First Nation, and I hear she's most famously known as Auntie Vicki, which I think speaks to that familiarity that I think a lot of us come from within our families and our communities, having that auntie wisdom. So miigwech Vicki for joining us today.
Vicki Pavis Dishnakaz, Ramamajiganing Seabright. And my Indian name is Nan Goes Kwe, Falling Star Woman. I have to get it interpreted again because he said falling or flying. So I'm always flying around busy all the time. And my clan is my Gun. Yeah, I love that sound. I wait for that. So Miigwech, I'm very honored to be here today for Water Day, and it's a very special day, and I've prepared myself for this day. Um, the reflection is so beautiful at this time of year. Um, I went for a walk, getting ready for this day. I walked to the village in Seabright, just checking out the sights and sounds, and I got to the village and there is an artesian water running there still in the village there. So I went to check it out and I wish I had a camera. If you have a chance, you can go there. And I seen a tree and it was so beautiful. The water is right there and the tree was standing there and you see the roots going through the rocks. And I just thought, wow, is that the tree of life? You know, the tree of life with all the roots and the water. It was so beautiful. And today I made sure that we have the Eshko Day, the fire, and I brought some of the medicines, and I also have the sacred water in here in this vessel. And it was really hard to find nothing plastic. There is steel in here, so this is the artesian water. And I did bring some from home here so that we have the real artesian water here that we can bless and share together on this special day. Um, I know the water teaching is a very special teaching. As Mishnah Bekwe, I learned the many teachings from many beautiful teachers in my travels. And one of the ones was I used to get told, wear a skirt. You're supposed to wear a skirt and all that everywhere I went to different events. And I thought, okay, supposed to wear a skirt. Okay. And then as time went on, I got older. I finally got told why I'm supposed to wear a skirt, but I was explained into a more beautiful way that we give life, us women, us quays, and the baby is in that water, surrounded by that life water that we need. So it starts from there, the beauty of that water that we need to sustain us all through our life. And so that's why we wear skirts, because we're in that circle of life. All of us are all in that circle of life with the four colors, red, yellow, white, black. So all the four races. So we're all in that circle of life. So we have to remember to look after ourselves so that we can look after the water. We're to be stewardships of the land, which we are forgetting these days. We have to put things aside, especially those phones and medias, which I have done myself. I'm in the bush a lot. Sometimes I don't want to come out. And like that's the beauty part of it. When you really get in tune with this water. They say you need to drink 8 glasses of water a day, but when when your body needs that water, because you can feel it when you drink it, especially on a hot day, you could just feel it go down and that. So, um, yeah, so with this beautiful water that we need to sustain every little living being, from the little bee or bug, we need all those waters. So we need to think of that water every day, not just today. We need to look after that water. And as a Anishinaabe Kwe, I'm in that circle of life. So I'm starting to feel the responsibility of my position in that circle of life. And it is my responsibility to share, or we're to share, us Nookamusses, aunties, and grandmothers, clan mothers are to share all these beautiful teachings with the rest of our community in nations, First Nations and that. So, so I, do- they, did we want to do the water now? Yeah. So I brought the water from Seabright and it's artesian, so we will hand out the water. Somebody could, here, I guess. So, I got all our medicines here. Cedar, Indian tobacco, it's the real tobacco. And sweet grass. And cedar, what am I missing? I think I got it all. Okay. So I smudged the room a little bit prior. I try not to overwhelm, just lightly light it. So as you're holding this water, think of this beautiful water that we're going to partake. And that we need this water to sustain us all through our life. And Mother Earth needs this water. Do you have some? Yeah. Yeah. Here. Creator, Shem Nido, Jimmy Gwetch for this sacred water that is to sustain us all in the animals and planting of our gardens and the beauty from the sun for all our plants to grow. And not to forget her, because she's alive and well. And there is a scientist, Dr. Imato, that did tests on water of how it reacts to good and evil or bad vibrations and that. So it's a very living thing. So so say to yourself in a prayer to yourself, be thankful that we have this and to sustain us and all the rest of everybody in the world, and keep everybody in our prayers that we keep strong and move forward and help Mother Earth look after this water, and that we can all do this together. And so I say, you can drink it, and I say, miigwech, 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 4 times, miigwech. Beautiful, isn't it? I gave myself quite a bit here. You're supposed to drink it all.
So I'm very, very happy to introduce 2 panelist speakers today on our World Water Day event. The first is another famous Vicky in these parts, Vicky Maneg. is a Lakehead alumni and lecturer in the Faculty of Education here at the Aurelia campus. Vicky will share her perspectives on water protection, as well as teachings about the significance of water for healing and resilience. That's something that I think that we can all use these days, particularly in a challenging time. I think we need to be able to ground ourselves with some teachings, right? So I'm very happy to have Vicky here. She's just
So bojoga kina wea ninsa mijok do kwe and go gae mayingan and dodem kichina memenacing and donjaba ni somade kwe and dao jaboa dajan the mana yosa nabe nimikwena maga kina nitamga kino mageo jik badwade and benesi a bun gajina kazo de minwa dash bidasage a bun gajina kazo nongwa gi min goyan ga kina Anishinaabe nebe gi kin daswen nongo misayo. I just had to so my spirit name is Mijakdo Kwe. It's the clear sky woman, and I too am Wolf Clan. That's why I howled. It's the most beautiful clan. So really happy to be here. I'm coming back to Lakehead as a student, and I'm excited to start another master's degree program in September. But Lakehead is my home, and I appreciate the invitation to be asked here today. And I want to go through a lot of different things today. But first, I want to kind of situate us and help us to understand why World Water Day is important in the first place. In response to the ongoing exploitation of water and the depletion of world water resources, World Water Day was proposed to the United Nations General Assembly in Rio de Janeiro in 1992. The very first World Water Day event was held in 1993. World Water Day is an educational program to promote change with its sole objective to meet the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 6, water and sanitation for all by 2030. This year's theme is glacier preservation. Glaciers are vital sources of water for drinking, agriculture, industry, clean energy production, and healthy ecosystems. Rapid melting of glaciers due to climate change poses a significant threat to water security and livelihoods. The International Institute for Sustainable Development 2025 estimates that glaciers, mountain runoff, and snowmelt provide nearly 2 billion people with water for drinking, agriculture, and energy production. Currently, the United Nations estimates that 1 in 10 people in the world, mainly women and girls, do not have access to clean water. Water Today reports that there is currently 35 long-term water advisories for First Nations in Canada and 29 short-term advisories. Unfortunately, it is not likely that the 193 member states of the United Nations, Canada being one of them, will meet the call to action number 6 of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. In fact, inaccessibility to clean water is expected to accelerate by some reports, which could have the potential to undermine the entire United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Pollution and climate change remain the major threats to world water resources. There's an estimated 1,233 quintillion liters of water in the world. Water makes up an estimated 71% of the world's surface. Some statistics state that only 3 to 4% of the world's water resources are freshwater resources. This 3 to 4% is shared by 7.7 billion people upon the planet. It is estimated that in 2030, there will be 8.6 billion people in the world. Freshwater resource renewal requires natural filtration systems of healthy land and ecosystems. The human body is estimated to be up to 80% of water by some estimates. The erosion of freshwater glaciers raises sea levels, results in the loss of habitat for certain species, and has contributed to species at risk. This has also impacted traditional migration routes and hunting patterns for Indigenous peoples in Canada, with some hunting patterns being thousands of years old, being lost. But it wasn't always this way. The Gitche Ayaag, the elders of Gitchiminasing, once recalled to me that they could remember a time when our members used to go to the dock and draw water. So if you don't know, I'm from Bosley First Nation. I grew up on an island in Georgian Bay. Water is a way of life for us. And in fact, I will say that you know, this past winter, we almost declared a state of emergency because of inaccessibility, not being able to provide transportation safely across for our members when our boat broke down, which puts our members at risk. So the health of Georgian Bay and the wellness of Georgian Bay and the conditions of the ice are directly relate to the health and well-being of our people on Chiminising. So they told me of a time when the Nokmasug grandmothers would go to the dock and make water offerings when the ice would turn to honeycomb to give thanks for the coming of new life in Zeegwin the spring and safe passage on the ice during the long winter months. They also shared to me the stories of Gitchaganeabik, who would protect the islands in Monodogaming, which is Georgian Bay, a great big snake that would move from Douglas Lake to Beckwith Island to Hope to Manitoulin Island and all the islands in between. It is said that this great protector had a framework of access routes, and it was only later that I learned about the great snake constellation that is actually in the sky realm. So if you don't know, star knowledge is my thing. So maybe I'll get to do another presentation on that some other time, but it sits in the northeast part of Anongokaning, the star realm, confirming that we'd have always known who this spirit was and what their work is upon the earth to protect Georgian Bay. Anishinaabe women and girls have been leading movements across Mi'kmaq-Minising to restore sustainable practices and rooted in traditional ecological knowledge to ensure the health and well-being of the planet, even though Anishinaabe women and girls remain the subjects of socially constituted poverty and oppression. Their voices have never been stronger, thanks to the work of the late Dr. Edwin Benton Benai Abun and Josephine Mendamin Abun in the Three Fires Medewin Lodge in the mid-1990s. So this is my teacher. And I have to really give him credit. He's no longer with us. He no longer walks upon this earth. But I did a little thing in 2009 called Site 41. And what Site 41 was, was protecting this, the Alliston Aquifer. The water in the Alliston Aquifer was tested against the cleanest layers of Arctic glacial ice that were 6,000 to 8,000 years old by Dr. William Schodek at the University of Heidelberg in Germany, and now at the University of Alberta. And what this water tested to be cleaner than the cleanest layers of Arctic glacial ice, and it's right here in Anishinaabe territory. It's ours. It belongs to us. It belongs to Anishinaabe people, and I have to say that very sternly, because whatever happens on this aquifer, we should be consulted. We should be a part of anything that happens on this. Being one of the most sacred sites in creation. Now, Dr. William Schodek, he's currently using the samples from the Alliston Aquifer at the University of Alberta as the baseline for testing contaminants in the Athabasca River. It's coming from right here in our own backyard. So it's really a beautiful thing, but I'm going to talk about some of the issues with calling something the purest water in the world. So what happens, we blockaded. So we started out, we did, so this is the site. Site 41 was going to be a massive landfill on top of this pristine aquifer in 2009. We decided, and you can see over here, that this is actually the camp. So we started out Mother's Day weekend. It was only supposed to be a weekend campsite. And we decided we were going to stay. And we were going to stay till it was shut down. So sometime in July, we made the decision that we were going to blockade. And I took the first steps out onto the road to blockade and protect Site 41 from the development of a landfill, which would have been a mega landfill, by the way, and would have rerouted Toronto's garbage to Simcoe County. And what's historic about this is that this is the first time, especially for me, a little girl growing up on the res, not having access to non-Indigenous peoples besides that of high school, right? And so this is the real first example that we have of Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples in Simcoe County working together for a common cause, and we won. We won. So we didn't win until August 25th, 2009. So the blockade went on for approximately 17 days. I was arrested and charged with mischief and intimidation for blocking the road and for taking those first steps out and starting a blockade that would last that long. And it was really, really beautiful experience. There was a lot of, it also a very trying experience as well. But I'm going to save some of those stories for another day in the interest of time. But Site 41 still remains one of the most powerful legacies in this area of non-Indigenous peoples and Indigenous peoples working together for a common cause. So these are some of the photos from Site 41, and you can see Josephine Mendaman here, and this is actually the Medewan ceremony that came. I'm a third degree Medewan from the Three Fires Medewan Lodge, and at this time at Site 41, I was not Medewan. All I had was a little bit of knowledge from Badwed and B'nai Siaban. I was lucky enough to be raised traditionally in a time where that wasn't always accepted. And when I got involved in ceremony as a young child, I knew that was the way that I wanted to follow. I knew that was everything that I wanted for my life. But I had not yet become Medewan. And in fact, before Site 41, I was a drug addict. I was a crack cocaine addict. I was an alcoholic. Almost lost my kids to child welfare system multiple times. Was living in abject poverty, dependent upon social programs. And the only thing that led me there to be a part of this, and it was started with 5 women, and you can see them: Shelley Assance, Elizabeth Elson, Alita Ellison, and Pauline Menag and we're all members of Bosley First Nation. And the only thing that led me there, and I can only speak from my own perspective, is the belief that women have a role to protect water and have a duty to protect water. And going from the teachings that Badwed and Benassi had shared with me from his grandmothers and from his grandmother's grandmothers, and this long line of beautiful Anishinaabe knowledge related to water. And I knew that if I got involved with this, that I would have to come at it from the role of being Anishinaabe Kwe, and that's what we put out. That's what we put out in the media. That's what we put out in social media and different things like that, was that we're Anishinaabe women standing up to protect the water. And so, and winning was a major victory in this area. But it wasn't until some time after that I started to think about this a little bit more critically. After I finished my master's degree here at Lakehead, after I finished my political science degree here at Lakehead, and I started to think about this a little bit more critically as I was watching the academic debates regarding the pristineness of water across the world. And a lot of communities were coming out and competing with each other about who had the cleanest water, and that it was not in Tiny Township in Ontario. And it became a major source of academic discussion. And I got really angry about that. And not because I believe that we have the cleanest water in the world here, but because what about the rest of the world's water? Why are we competing against each other about who has the most important or the most cleanest water in the world? But what's happening to the water that is not making it clean? Why are sites like the Allison Aquifer important in the first place? Well, because we know, and in that way, we're actually acknowledging the pollution of world water resources and the disruptions of natural hydrogeological cycles. And so in 15 years later, and people always come to me and they want me to, like, they want me to protest if a tree is getting cut down sometimes. And sometimes they want me to take on really big things, like nationally. And I kind of sit back and I have to say, I can't do that right now. Because in order for us to make change when it comes to water, it's going to take every single one of us. Absolutely. And by the way, what you use at home is not anywhere close to what the industry uses in terms of the destruction of water resources. So in my class here, Kinamagawin in education. I was so lucky to teach about over 200 students this past semester, and I got to talk to them a little bit about this. But what I got to talk to them about was four main things that we have to consider when we're engaging in capitalist society, because that's ultimately where we're going with climate change. That's ultimately what is the precursor to climate change. And they learned about the human rights footprint. The fact that when we're wearing clothes, we don't actually know where that's coming from or how those are being produced. And oftentimes, the things that we're wearing are made by people who are getting paid a wage that we would never work for, if they're getting paid at all. They also learned about the Indigenous rights footprint. Hey, guess what? All of the natural raw materials that we're extracting from the earth are coming from Indigenous people somewhere. They also learned about the water footprint. And the water footprint is, hey, guess what? Whatever product we use is destroying water in the chain of production. And then they also learned about the CO2 footprint. It's very, very real things that we need to think about and consider when we're engaging in capitalist society. So Benjamin Benet said that there would come a time when the price of water would be more than a price of gold. And at that time, he asked the question, who will stand up for the water? And this was in about 2001 and the Three Fires Medewan Lodge. And it was only grandmother Josephine Ebun, a 4th degree Medewan, our grandmother right here. She was the chief of the Grandmothers Council in the Three Fires Medewan Lodge. And it was only her who stood up and said, I will do it for the water. And when she did that, she started a legacy that has spanned across the globe. I'm going to show you some of the pictures about that in a second. The Mother Earth Water Walks began in 2002 and it happened over 14 years all around the Great Lakes, the 4 directions of Turtle Island, and the path of migration. This movement greatly contributed to the global awakening of the water consciousness, right? Water has spirit, water has life. And you heard our beautiful elder, Vicky, discuss that a little bit with respect to Dr. Emoto. Well, in the Anishinaabe people, we always knew that. We didn't need science to quantify or qualify that. We knew that. That's why we had water ceremony, right? Water ceremony is one of the most important things that we can do for our healing and our wellness. And why? Because we're able to get something from the spirit realm and hold it in our hand for just a little bit and take it into our bodies and lift up our souls and lift up our spirits. It's one of the most important things we can do. And in fact, when I teach, I make sure all my students do a water ceremony. The movement contributed to a global consciousness of water, reigniting the concept of personhood. Both Grand Chief Benton Benayaban and Josephine Mendaminaban have passed on to the Monodokaning, the spirit realm, but their legacy continues to thrive, leading grandmothers, mothers, women, and families and children to stand up and do what it takes to protect the water, even though Anishinaabe women remain disproportionately represented in the criminal justice system, and the likelihood of their criminalization is imminent. Kind of happened to me. I don't have a criminal record anymore, by the way. Just want to share that. But I don't know what I would have ever done without Badwaid and Benesia Bun and the impact that he's had on my life and Josephine Mendaman. So this is us when we won the court case. So I was slapped with an injunction and a lawsuit over $100,000 by the county of Simcoe, and we won. But I want to talk a little bit about this. And so after Site 41, we decided that, this water is so beautiful that we wanted to use it to connect with Indigenous peoples across the world. So the Site 41 water has been to Nepal, it's been to India, it's been to China, it's been to Japan, it's been to Australia, it's been to New Zealand. This is a photo of South Africa, it's been to France. And so what we do when we send the water is we hold the Site 41 water, which you can get at the Alliston flow, by the way, or sorry, the Elmville flow. And we do a water ceremony with it. And we use it to connect with Indigenous peoples all over the world. And so this is actually a Nama, Khoi, and San water ceremony. And what they did was they took our prayers from here that were being held by the water, and they mixed it with their own water. And then they walked over, I think it was over 1,700 kilometers across South Africa. And they carried this water to the people everywhere, and they blessed the water as they were going. So it was really, really beautiful, a beautiful opportunity for us to connect and ignite our strength as Indigenous peoples across the world. So I wanted to, I'm just going to stop share there. I was going to put up a picture, and I don't think I can upload it right now, but I just want to talk a little bit about Honduras. And in Honduras, so in 2019, I had the opportunity to go to Honduras on a human rights mission, investigating the routes of migration to the US-Mexico border. And when we went, I didn't know this, unbeknownst to me, was that we actually had a water walk planned in Simcoe County. And so right away, you know, I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm going on this human rights mission. I'm going to take the water to Honduras, and I'm going to take it over there, and we're going to put in this water walk first. So we went to the flow, and we got the water, and then we all prayed with it. We did multiple water ceremonies with it, and we put it into a little jar. And then we put it into this water walk in Simcoe County. And over 1,200 students walked with that water. And it was one of the most amazing things that I could have ever seen in my life. And as we were going to get ready to go to Honduras, what I did with that water was I took it all over. And the first thing that we encountered when we were in San Pedro Sula was a women's march on the streets. And so right away, I gave it to our friend Patricia Alvarez, who is a lawyer in Honduras and was supporting a lot of the indigenous activists who were being arrested for protesting environmental destruction with respect to industrial developments in Honduras. And there were criminalization of indigenous peoples in Honduras is an ongoing and pressing issue. And so we were able to put that water into the march with them. And as we went, you know, we went and I was able to visit some of the rivers, and I was able to go out into the ocean. And I remember one particular night by Trujillo, I was walking out into the ocean, and I had the water, and something just tells me I need to go out to this place, and I need to spill some of that water. So I walked out into the ocean, and I must have went up to my knees, and it was like probably about 10 o'clock at night. And I started singing. And I had the water, and I started singing, and I started going, Nebe Gizage go, singing my Auntie Doreen's water song that she gifted to all people who are standing up for the water. So I started singing that song, and as I was singing it, the water started to rise. And then the birds actually started coming, and they started going around me in circles, and I'm like, oh my God. And I went and I put that, I poured the water, and I just kept singing. My prayers were not for me. My prayers were for the people in Honduras and everything that they were enduring. So as we continue on this trip, I'm carrying this water with me, this water vessel, and on the last day of our trip, we're going up the mountains, and I'm finding out that there's a major development that is happening that is going to affect the water source supply of the Linka community that is there. And so as we're going up, I didn't know what was going on, and I'm like, because I don't speak Spanish, right? So 50% of the stuff, I was just there hanging out because I didn't understand. And I'm trying to use the Google Translator, right, and speak in Spanish, and I didn't know what was going on. But the water, as we were driving up on our bus, started going crazy, and it started moving, and it was almost like it was going to jump out of my hand, and I didn't know what was going on. So I'm like, okay, I know you're trying to tell me something. I'm not feeling well though, because I must have ate something bad or whatever. But so I had to just kind of tune myself out to focus on what the water was telling me. And so when we get up there, we get up to the top, and I didn't know that there were multiple human rights delegations that were there that day from all over the world, and that the whole community decided that they were all going to be out. So all of a sudden, I found myself in a space with about 2,000 people. And you couldn't tell because that community was so silent. And so I get over there and I'm holding this water, and then the whole delegation turns and looks at me and says, "Oh, by the way, they want a speaker from our delegation and we've nominated you." I'm like, I don't even speak Spanish. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, I'll do it. Can you, I asked one of my friends, "Can you translate for me?" And she says, "Yeah, I can do that." And so what happens then is I start to speak with them, and I'm speaking in my language, and they'd never heard another Indigenous person speak their language before. And then I sang that water song, and then I asked for the oldest grandmother in the community to come forward. And she does. And her name is Maria Luisa. And if I could pull that up, I would show you. Let's see if I can find it. I don't know where it is. Okay. But I was able to pour that water for her, and she was about 92 years old. And I poured that water into it, and it was a beautiful, beautiful moment of sharing. And what she says to me is, she says, "We're so grateful. We're going to also respond to you with a song." And they sang one of their water songs right back to me. And then so what she did, and she said, and what she says to me, and this is through the translator, she says, "We're going to take this to the dam that is being developed, and we're going to take our whole community up there." And so that's what they did. So water, and it wasn't that, as Indigenous peoples here in Canada, we're trying to save other Indigenous peoples in the world. It's not that. It's that we're igniting a sacred duty to protect and being in solidarity with one another, in true partnership and solidarity. So what do we need to do to protect the water? We need to have the spiritual connections to water. We also need to use water, learning from the environments, which is what you saw up there, but we also need to try to be like water. And what do I mean by being like water? Well, the water teachings come from the creation story of the Anishinaabe people. And in that creation story, there's a time where the creator turns over the powers of creation to Anishinaabe. That's where that comes from. And the water being, the earth being the one who can hold water unto herself in such a way to sustain life, is why that water was, why our mother the earth was chosen to inhabit life. But the water's job is to bring life to everybody, everywhere, everything, at all times. But it does not make you prove yourself. It does not say, "Chris," and I'm picking on Chris because I can pick on Chris. It does not say, "Chris, you did this yesterday. Linda's going to get mad at you. Therefore, you cannot have any water." It doesn't do that. Water doesn't discriminate in the way that we do. We are the ones who created that. So if we're going to start changing what's happening to the water, it happens a little bit step by step. It happens by us mirroring how water is and what water does. And there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work to do to bring justice across the world for Indigenous peoples, but also to bring environmental justice. And I wouldn't be an Indigenous activist if I didn't bring up environmental racism in Canada and how that's manifested. So I want to think of my friends at Grassy Narrows and my friends in Amjanong who are facing the effects of environmental racism and have been for many, many years. I don't want to speak on their behalf, but I want to send my thoughts to them in a good, kind way and tell them that I love them and that I would do anything for them. because it's a very, very real phenomenon. So if you don't know what environmental racism is, it's the development, industrial developments in close proximity to a First Nations community or Indigenous community that is going to cause detrimental effects to their health. So with that, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And I look forward to coming back to Lakehead in September. Miigwech.
Gretch, Vicky. Oh my goodness, that was so inspirational. You brought tears to my eyes and goosebumps to my arms. So I'm going to introduce our second panelist speaker today. So with us on the screen, you'll see him up there, is Dr. Juan Sanchez Martinez, who's an associate professor in the Department of Indigenous Learning here at Lakehead University in our Thunder Bay campus. So welcome to Juan. He will share his work with the Indigenous Environmental Network and an update on the water anthologies, which is Indigenous perspectives on water across the globe. There's an Indigenous Anthologies 2.0 that's coming out this year that Juan is currently working on with other scholars and other Indigenous teachers and leaders across Turtle Island. So miigwech to Juan, and I'll let him start.
I just wanted to say, miigwech, Fi and Chinga, thank you so much for this invitation. Thank you to Carlota, to the Office of the Indigenous Initiatives, and to Elder Vicky and Vicky for their words, their teachings. I just feel humble and, an honor to be part of this celebration. I came like a year and a half to Animki Wikedong, Thunder Bay here in the bay, of Anishinaabe, Gichigami, and Lake Superior, and I'm learning and I have been welcomed by community, by colleagues, by students, and I'm just learning. And I will talk today a little bit about this project, Indigenous Message on Water, that I have been collaborating for since 2012. And, and throughout this work, I have been blessed with a lot of teachings and experiences and travelings. But this is not about me, it's about all the peoples that are part of these anthologies and these websites that what I'm going to show. And for example, Achu Kantule, who is a friend artist who is Guna Dule, and he's the who created this vision, the fisherman in the moon. Achu's territory is between Panama and Colombia. The Gunadule people, like they know about water in this part of the globe that we inhabit, and a lot of his art is related with the traditional textiles of the Gunadule and with the different writings that they have that are not alphabetic, and they are always referring to their morality. And so that's that, and just a little bit of colors and poetry that I'm bringing today, because part of the intention doing this work, parallel to the activism, is to restore our spiritual ecosystem through creativity. So let's see. I am not from here, but here, Thunder Bay, Turtle Island. I'm originally from the Andes. I'm originally from Muqueta, that is today known as Bogota, the capital of Colombia. I like to show this picture because you can see there, like the traffic. You almost can feel the smoke. The noise, the graffiti art, the sun, and this day was sunny, but there is a lot of rain down there. But you can also see in the back, the mountains. And these mountains, we call the Eastern Mountains, they are like a natural barrier to the city that, like the people are trying to protect them, but the city's growing up there. And this is going to be important to I guess, locate myself, because this city of 10 million people is actually the word Muikita in the Muiskubun language of the first peoples of Muiketa means the fertile valley. So if you have the chance to have like a little garden or something, you will find this black soil that is pure gold. Eh? And you can grow potatoes, you can grow corn, you can grow medicines, tobacco. Um, yeah, so it's so special, and it's full of wetlands. But because the non ecological grown of the city, like sometimes when we live there, we forget that. And a lot of the wetlands are a corner, and all the little streams that go down from the mountain, they are now underground. So we have lost this connection to the water. And I am mixed race. I grew up here, I guess, disconnected with the long history of the place that I was born. And it has been through the decades of work with elders and friends from indigenous nations uh, around Colombia, and then after in my life in Guatemala and in Turtle Island, that I have been remembering who I am and where I come from. So just a little bit of the water that I am. So this is what happens when you hike the mountains and go there, is that you will find this special ecosystem that sometimes people call the alpine tundra ecosystem. Is on it only looks like this in the tropics. So the clouds, because it's high up, it's like 3,000 meters above sea level. So you will find this, like that you are in the clouds. And so while the clouds pass, which who are water, there are these special plants that have these hairy leaves that are able to retain the moist and the fog and the mist, and then they put it down into the water, into the ground, that is this bog and beautiful place of small flowers and unique species. So this is also, we have learned with time, walking with the elders, bringing offerings to these lagoons and places, that these are the places of origin of the Muisca, the first peoples. And so a lot of peoples of my generation and before, they have been trying to revitalize this work. And down there, we also had water walks and water runners, actually, that were running between the different lagoons. There are 7 lagoons in those mountains. This one, particularly this space, is called Teusaka. And that's a little bit about me and the water. I noticed that people, that Elder Vicky and Vicky introduced themselves with the traditional names. And I have been given names because in different nations, in different languages, because part of my work has been walking throughout Turtle Island and Abya, and and I guess I have understood that that's part of my spirit. In down there in Quechua, elders talk about the Chasqui and the Chacarruna, which are people that they are travelers and they are bridging communities and sharing different messages from different places. So that's part of who I am. When I was living, for example, in Toquillas-D, in the Cherokee territory, I lived for 7 years sharing with colleagues there, and a place of water and black bears, where there are no dams or lagoons, natural places, natural lagoons or lakes. All the rivers run to the ocean. So people, settlers, have built dams and all that, but that's not the way of the Cherokee waters. And so, but down there, one of the name that was given to me, and I'm gonna say it, it's, I think that is a good time to share it. I don't normally say it, but so this is how I will say there. Hawin Amayi Dawadoa. And Hawin Amayi means the place of the deep water. So this is the project that I'm working on, and this is the website that now is located. So please feel free to navigate our site. I have understood that all this media and technology is also made with elements and minerals and materials from the land. So technology has been part of the life of indigenous peoples forever, and it will be. But there are technologies to oppress and sciences to oppress, and there are technologies and sciences to liberate. And the way how we are using these days internet, with this project, is to create awareness and a space that can contain this beautiful vision. And so if we go to the website, this is what we will see. Um, and so you will find so a lot of things are going on, is in construction, uh, uh, and all the content is in English, in Spanish, in French, and indigenous languages. And I just wanted to go over so you all can help us to spread the word, to go back to this place, to use it in your classes, in your classrooms, with your communities, with your projects. That's what this is about. And so you can find our story. As I said before, this is the vision of the elders, and I will talk a little bit about it. But particularly in Darlene Sanderson and Mona Polaka, they have been working with the Indigenous World Forum on Water and Peace, Indigenous Environmental Network, and different organizations traveling around the world. And in 2014, they asked me to put together this anthology that they had in mind. And so I just simply facilitate that work, and you can explore these videos and teachings. This image, for example, is with Nana Maria Teresa Panchillo, who is an elder from the Mapuche, who came to Chelaga, to Montreal, and with other two elders, and we were launching the project, and so they are part of the first book. And then this is 10 years after, so the elders contact me again. Hey, Juan, it's time to do it again. And so it's a lot of work, and with translation and bridging communities and artists and poets and elders. But again, this is not just me, it's also about Sophie Lavoie. She's a professor in New Brunswick, and Felipe Quetzalcoatl Quintanilla, professor in Western Ontario, and the designers of this beautiful site, and the artists and the collaborators, some of them students at Lakehead, like Jocelyn Montalban and Carolina Camacho. Um, so I just wanted to mention that. But so when you go here, you can also see, you can also find the anthologies. So the first anthology, if you are curious now, is here, so you can download it. And the first anthology, the vision was to bring it with you and read it aloud to the water, to the bodies of water that you live by. And so this exercise is what is behind, the possibility to speak to her, the possibility to pray to her, to sing to her. There is something that happens in that moment when we acknowledge her, because and that's part of the exercise of this project. Now, there are artists, there are literature, there's literature, and I just wanted to show you like the all the possibilities. We will continue uploading all the artists and writers, but we are also putting all of them together in a book that we are hoping to launch in August or September, and now it's being printed. So this is, we're really excited about it. And for example, Pedro Ucbe, he's a Maya Yucatec writer and art activist, defending so many situations that are happening in Yucatan, with tourism, with private property, and one of the so he's writing in Maya Yucatec, and also so we translate it into English, and uh, uh, Paul Worley and Melissa Berghofer, they did this work, and so he's talking about the cenotes, which is a really special place in Yucatan, different places where there are these like gourds that are containing the aquifer, but that you can access because you go down, you are under the forest, and then you are entering, these portals to the underground, and these are ceremonial places. And because of private property, communities don't have access anymore to these places. So he's reflecting about it, and so uh, one of the things that we do is that this is not just an anthology. This also is about the communities that they are talking about. So all the authors and artists are providing a statement, like what this means, why the cenotes, and so that's part of the project. And so you can go and experience, like these teachings yourself, and travel around the world through the words and art. And as Vicky was saying, there is something beautiful that happens when indigenous peoples meet, when their indigenous peoples acknowledge, their histories, when we listen each other deeply and we feel solidarity. And because there is so much that we can learn from each other. And this trans-indigenous dialogue is the coalition that we need today. We are the majority, you know so and so that's part of the exercise. Craig Santos Perez, for example, he's Chamorro from Guam. He has this beautiful poem on oceans. Kimberly Becker is Cherokee. She's talking about the Blue Hole Spring, which is in Red Clay, sacred place for the Cherokee in the mountains of Tennessee. It was the last place that they were congregated before they were forced displaced in the 1830s, by the government of the US. And it was so important that hundreds of years after, they brought back the fire that they brought with them when they were displaced, to Oklahoma, to the other side of the Mississippi. So these waters keep memory. So she's reflecting about it. And But so every author is speaking from their own land and their own waters. And for example, Rafael Mercado Epieyu, he's a dear friend from the Wayuu. He speaks Wayunaiki, and is this land between Colombia and Panama. But they are desert people, so their relationship with water is rain is really prominent, is really special, and they call it Uncle Huya. And so he talks about it, and maybe you already know Tom Goldtooth and René Gournaud. They are sharing this amazing article that I will recommend that all of you, like take a look, because it's about water ethics. And because they have been traveling like Vicky, to so many places, seeing what is happening with corporations, private interest, and mining and hydroelectric dams and all that. So there's a need to understand it, and like have like a clear vision of what is happening, and the way how communities today are forced into the global market after centuries of impoverishing, colonization, so they are critical, and so this article is really special. And I would like to mention that, right now in Thunder Bay, there are projects that the government of Canada would like to support, like lithium mines and the Ring of Fire and the DGR, the Deep Geological Repository of Nuclear Waste in Dryden. And this is what we are talking about, because all these projects will definitely affect the aquifer and the streams, and the perspectives of time of this science that they are speaking is really narrow, and it doesn't take into account the original instructions of indigenous peoples. And a couple of days ago, we had this beautiful panel about it, and we were talking about this situation. So there is so much that we could uh, share related with each of the authors, but I have to, I only have few minutes. So this is, I would like that you meet Elder Mona Polaka, Elder Darlene, who have been, part of the vision, and the other two editors of this upcoming anthology that I would love that you all have. So we will have, free copies, and the book is going to be open access. So we can continue in touch. So maybe we can do different activities with that, because those books and these sites become pedagogical tools. Um, and these are some of the words that in the book are used and in native languages. And the first one, I put it there because that's the way how we say water in Wiskubun, in Wikita. We say sie. And that's the reason why one of the lagoons that I was talking about is called Siecha. And you also will see Nibi there. And you also see at the end, ama is how the Cherokee, they say in Salagi, water. And there are all these sounds have a story, and that is beyond, me, but I would like to put it there. So this becomes like a collective creative offering, and all these nations are represented, and all these nations are speaking about different bodies of water, you know. Mm. So our anthology is trans-indigenous, is intergenerational, and is multimodal, because in addition of the letters, we also have videos, we also have songs. Some of them are ceremonial songs, that you are going to be able to listen. They are meant to be shared, and some of them are hip hop. So we have all these possibilities, and this is also part of the project to, like converge, together beyond the differences. And so these are some ideas that I would like to share, just, starting closing this brief presentation. And when we launched the first anthology, I wanted to share this. So that was the first time that I heard Thunder Bay. And so around 2014, we decided to present the book in the Museum of London in Dashkent CB in southwestern Ontario. I was doing my PhD there in Western University, and so I searched for the contact of Elder Josephine Mandamimba, and I talked with her. Say, Josephine, we're doing this event. We will love that you come here and be with us and present the book with us and share the message. And so that's exactly what you were all saying today. If it's for the water, we have to do it. So that has been an inspiration. And this second volume is dedicated to her. And because it's what has kept us, doing this work. Another teaching that is in our first anthology is the water is our first medicine. And I would like to invite you, all of you, to stay with that statement for a second. Like, water is our first medicine. We are the water herself, envisioning the water that we will be. This is the time of restoring native ecosystems. Yes, for food sovereignty, for, like the native seeds and all the four legs and the fish. There is a way, that there are original instructions. It's just English, like each community have their ancestral laws. And I've been taught here, like about the Mino Bimadisigun. But down there, the elders talk about Unsamu. Those are principles that are guiding, like the survival in a good way, of all beings, human, non-human, visible, invisible. So all that is part of it. But it's also the time to restore our spiritual ecosystem. Is they go together. And so also we have heard time and again that 70% of our body planet is water. The way we treat the sea, springs, rivers, lagoons, and wetlands that surround and cross the towns and cities we inhabit shows how difficult it is for us to embody that statement and live it. With the intention of counteracting this difficulty, the collective spirit of this anthology offers words and images of respect and reverence for the water that we are. So if you are interested, you can go to YouTube and type indigenous water in addition of the website, and you will find our first videos. And one of these, there are 3 videos that we made with Elder Sheila DeCourt, who has been following the steps of Elder Josephine Mandamimba here in Animkiwekedon with her project of For the Love of the Rivers. So it's so beautiful because she's sharing about, Anishinaabe protocols and her reflections about water, stories, and a song. So this is just for all of you to share and enjoy. And I know that some of us here present, because of the things, the teachings that have been shared, we know that that water is listening, that water is also communicating. But if you haven't thought about it, I would love to pose these questions to you. If water could listen to you, what will you say to her? If water could communicate with you, what do you think that she will say? Fien chinga, miwech, shki maltiosh duni. Thank you so much. And I hope that you visit our place. Mhm.
Miigwech to Juan. That was an excellent presentation. Again, provoking lots of thought about water and how each of us has a sacred responsibility, whether we're Indigenous or non-Indigenous, to protect the water, to love the water, and cherish the water. So I'm just going to turn it over to our Vice Provost of Indigenous Initiatives, Denise Baxter, who's in Thunder Bay today, to make some closing remarks. And then following her, we'll have Elder Vicky do a closing prayer for us. So Miigwech, I'll turn it over to Denise.
Great. Thank you so much, Carlotta. What a privilege to be able to, I know we're virtual and in person, depending on where we are. I was in person downstairs and then I came up. But, to have the opportunity with Elder Vicky Pawas to, listen to her teachings, to participate, albeit virtually in our case. But we have water here as well, just from a different area. In the water ceremony, and then just to be able to come together to hear and be reminded. I woke up around 5 a.m. and the moon was out and was shining in my room, and it was almost like daylight, even though it wasn't a full moon. But waking up that early in the morning and thinking about that connection of grandmother moon to water, was a really beautiful way to start the day, although a little early for me, but nonetheless, it's kind of what was in my mind, knowing what we were going to be doing today. To hear I guess the call to action, to hear it, but then to hear from people who have taken on that call to action very much so in their lives. And Vicky Maneg, I have had a chance to hear a little bit about what she shared with us today about her journey from her before. So I really appreciated, being able to hear more and seeing how, when you take that commitment on and you accept that, all of the changes and all of the work and all of the growth and learning that you have really, personally done some really heavy lifting on behalf of all of us, and not just all of us here, but all of us globally. And, so on that, I would like to thank the three of you who have in different ways, done that work really on behalf of the water, on behalf of everything that water supports globally. And as Juan, you were talking about the Yucatan Peninsula, and that also is a very rare place in the world where there are those cenotes. And I've had the opportunity to go sit and spend time in them and alongside them, and it's always a really special time and place when you can, I'm going to use the word commune, but when you can, sit in community, with water and give thanks for water. So there was so much. I wrote about 6 pages of notes as people were talking. And honestly, Vicky, when you were talking, there was so much more I wanted to hear about. And, for those who don't know Vicky, she holds a lot of knowledge around star teachings and those stories and what they mean and what they can mean and how they can help inform how we walk and how we live and the decisions we make. So I would love the opportunity to hear more about those. And related to these, obviously, as we had today. And also just, recognizing, I had a discussion with a friend of mine who lives up in the Northwest Territories last night. And your talk about, the glaciers and the importance of water and really what that means in terms of global health as well, and the exponential rate that glaciers are melting, that mountain glaciers are melting, icebergs are melting, those big sheets of ice in Antarctica. Like those are the areas of the world that are seeing the change in climate much more rapidly than other areas of the world, and very seriously. And Juan, to your point about, and Vicky as well, around environmental, I wrote the word down because it wasn't a word I'd heard, environmental racism. And, thinking about what that means for all of us, regardless of where we live in the world. Our water is, urgently needs to be protected and cared for. And I think every day it becomes more urgent, not less urgent. And so I just really, on behalf of the group, would like to extend thanks for sharing with us today, for bringing your passion with us today, and really sharing about the important work that you're all leading in your own spaces and places globally. So miigwech, thank you. And thank you, Carlotta, for organizing in Thunder Bay, and for Stacy and Yolanda for organizing in Thunder Bay. Back to you.
Marks. Oh, is it on? Okay. So we welcome Elder Vicky back to do a closing prayer for us. So I'd like to all invite you to lunch, which will be served in the dining hall. So I've got some lunch tickets to hand out to everybody, so we can break some bread and share some food together when we're finished here. Okay? So miigwech. I'll turn it over to Vicky, and I'm going to give you the microphone.
Wow, that was really beautiful, inspiring words from all the people that spoke today. And I'm reflecting along the way too. And I remember myself when I was a little girl, when we were all born into this world, we're all innocent. And I would sit by the water for hours. Up Shawnee way. That's where my other blood family is, my real family. And now that I reflect back, almost, and I'm in almost that full circle, not quite. And I just thinking, wow, it's all there, right? And I remember my mom hollering at me, make sure I'm okay by the water. And little did I know, when I learned those teachings when I grew up older and getting wiser to everything around me, and thinking of Mother Earth. So when you think of Mother Earth, you think of your mother too. And my mother's name is Ashawashige. I may not say announcing it right, but it's got 5 A's in it. And it means reflection off the water from the moonlight or the sunlight. And I think that's so beautiful when I think of that and my mother and everything that we all went through. We all have stories, and we're all in this together. And we all have the knowing in all the indigenous worlds. We all see it and feel it. But we need to look after ourselves first in order to do that, all that big work that we got to do. Oh, so I'm very grateful to be here with you, and that we continue this great work. And one of the things that came across my mind when the professor in Thunder Bay was speaking, that's what we need to do, is make the time. We got to flip everything. Everything's backwards. We got to flip it. I was in my sweat lodge, not my sweat lodge, but I was in the sweat lodge in my 3rd time, and the grandfather rock spoke to the elder, and it's okay for me to share. We can share this now, right? But the grandfather said, "Keep going the way we're going, because everything's backwards. Everything's under the bridge. Just keep going, keep moving forward." So that's the message that I share and I receive, because it really resonates with me. And when I feel right to share it, that is really true. So now it's our responsibility to think of that water and not to forget it. So I'm going to say a prayer, and I know I'm learning the language, And I speak a little bit, I call it broken Chippewa English. And I know I'm learning, I'm an auntie still, but I know I want to say the 7 grandfathers. Where did I put my book here? Shoot. Ooh. Oh, okay, thank you. I don't have my glasses on, I got cataracts here. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna say my prayer now. Jimmy Do for this beautiful day that we could be together to share this water day. And I would like to say the 7 grandfathers, because I know when we have ceremony that we are to speak the language for it to go above, for them, the ancestors, to smile upon us. So I was going to say the 7 grandfathers. Zagi Weiwen, love, is to find peace and joy in our connection to all of creation. Mademoen, respect, is to understand that all life is sacred and part of creation. Jundi Diwen, bravery, is to listen to your heart and have the strength and courage to do what is honorable. Wakwa Dizwen, honesty, is to be straightforward in a kind and caring way. The Basmoen, humility, is to be thankful, grateful, and acknowledge that we all belong to creation, recognizing each of us has something to give. Nawakawen, wisdom, is to embrace knowledge, share our life teachings, wisdom. Diwawawin, truth, is to know all these teachings above. And they also wrote in this one, is to know who we are and live these grandfather teachings. So those are the 7 sacred principles. And those are the teachings that us Anishinaabe go by in all the different tribes and nations in all the world, all the indigenous in the world. And I know I didn't bring my drum today, but we're to sing, like, have our drum, one song, one drum, so that goes up to the sky. And I feel like I want to sing the song, Lorraine McRae song. So I'll say Miigwech first. Miigwech, 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 Miigwech. For this beautiful day to love our water every day. And I'll sing that song. It's Miigwech Shem Nido. Miigwech Shem Nido. Miigwech Weheya Weheya Heyo. Miigwech Shem Nido. Miigwech Weheya Weheya Heyo. Canada, Gizagigo, Canada, Gizagigo, Canada, Weheya, Weheya, Heyo. And I'm saying, we love Canada. We all are in it together. Jimmy Wedge, Wedge.